grew up playing the basketball with the boys, so like it's always been physical and feisty, and like that's what it is. You got to find a way to hold your own.
A seismic shockwave just rocked the WNBA. Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark's fearless ally, has dropped a bombshell, exposing the truth behind Clark's mysterious absence from the court. Her stunning revelations unravel a hidden web of secrets, igniting frenzy among fans and sparking panic at the league's core. What's really keeping the game's brightest star sidelined? And how does Sophie's expose threaten to shake the WNBA to its foundation? Dive into this electrifying drama as we uncover why Caitlin Clark's hiatus is rewriting history. Sophie Cunningham has never been the type to sit quietly on the sidelines. She's bold, fiery, and unapologetically herself, a player who speaks with the same intensity she brings to the hardwood. In a league where most voices are careful, polished, and measured, Sophie has become something rare, the one athlete willing to risk it all to say out loud what everyone else only whispers behind closed doors. By 2024, those risks had already cost her thousands. More than $3,000 in fines piled up, each tied not to dirty plays or technical fouls, but to her words. A single offhand TikTok comment about officiating? That was a $500 hit. A podcast appearance where she dared to point out inconsistencies in refereeing? Another $1,500 gone. And when she called out favoritism, something fans complain about every week but players rarely admit, the punishment was handled quietly. No announcement. No transparency. Just another fine slipped under the rug, a silencing tactic. For most WNBA players, that would have been enough to lock their lips. With salaries ranging from $64,000 to $242,000 a year, losing even $1,500 isn't a small inconvenience. It's the kind of financial dent that makes you think twice before speaking again. Imagine losing 2% of your paycheck just for telling the truth. Anyone else might have backed down, but not Sophie. Every fine has only added fuel to her fire. And that's why fans can't stop listening. She isn't just venting or chasing attention, she's shining a harsh light on cracks within the league. In an era where most athletes are cautious about their image, Sophie's voice has become the one place where unfiltered truth slips through. And then came Caitlin Clark. Fans knew the second Sophie Cunningham spoke up that it wasn't idle gossip. This wasn't a case of a player stirring drama for clicks. Sophie had already proven she was willing to pay, literally, for honesty. She had taken thousands of dollars in fines simply for saying what others were too cautious to admit. So, when she started sharing her thoughts on Caitlin Clark's struggles and how the league was handling her, the speculation became impossible to ignore. Some critics called Sophie reckless. Others labeled her brave. But one truth became undeniable. She was no longer just a fiery player with a sharp tongue. She had become something bigger, the WNBA's unofficial whistleblower. Her words, whether delivered on TikTok, podcasts, or live interviews, cut through polished PR statements and forced uncomfortable questions out into the open. And that left fans wondering, what does this mean for the league's future? Can the WNBA keep silencing Sophie with fines? Or will her persistence finally drag the conversation into the spotlight? Perhaps the more important question is this: how many other players feel exactly as she does but don't have the courage or platform to risk it all? One thing is certain, Sophie Cunningham isn't backing down. She has proven time and again that she's willing to pay the price. That makes her one of the most dangerous voices the league has ever faced. But what's really behind the silence surrounding Caitlin Clark? Why are straight answers so hard to find? And why does it feel like no one at the top wants to talk? According to Sophie, the delay in Caitlin Clark's return isn't just about how serious her injury might be. It's about the mountain the modern WNBA expects every player to climb. College dominance, no matter how spectacular, doesn't guarantee instant success here. The league's speed, physicality, and depth demand a flawless transition. Even a generational superstar, arriving with fanfare after the April 2024 draft, must prove she can withstand unrelenting standards. Yet, Sophie points out, the challenge goes beyond the physical. It's also political. She has highlighted what fans themselves have noticed: selective officiating. A pattern where certain stars appear to be shielded by whistles, while others endure harsher contact with fewer calls. Sophie vented that referees seem to grant one player every whistle, leaving teammates and supporters feeling the tilt. When commentators dare to raise those same points, consequences follow. Sophie knows this firsthand. She's paid the fines. And in Caitlin's case, straightforward updates on her health or status have often been filtered, diluted, or twisted by the league and media channels. What emerges isn't clarity, it's a patchwork of explanations, edited statements, and large blanks. Injury reports collapse into vague lines. Social feeds churn rumors until they feel like facts. And through it all, one question lingers. Who benefits from murky messaging? Is it the league's image, favored players, or media outlets hungry for storylines? Sophie doesn't claim to have all the answers, but her words create undeniable pressure. For Caitlin Clark, the road back isn't just about physical recovery. It's about proving readiness in a league where rules sometimes feel uneven. It's about performing while carrying the weight of enormous expectations and navigating a political landscape that can shape careers as much as stats do. Naturally, speculation follows. Did preferential whistles shape minutes and momentum last season? Are fines being used not to correct imbalance but to police the narrative? Could carefully crafted PR statements be masking real disagreements behind closed doors in Indiana? Or even league-wide? These questions matter because perception drives everything now: endorsements, media coverage, ticket sales, and ultimately legacies. In 2025, as new storylines form, the WNBA can't afford to lose trust. And yet, with every delay and every silence, the sense of missing pages in Clark's story only grows stronger. Through all the buzz, one human truth remains: an athlete rebuilding in private is still just a person, tending to a body, a career, and a future. Fans aren't asking for drama. They're asking for transparency. They want clear timelines, independent medical clarity, and consistent officiating standards. Until those things arrive, doubt will fill the gaps. This isn't gossip. It's a test of trust for a league whose future depends on fairness and truth. And Sophie Cunningham's voice, rare and unfiltered, has become a peek behind the curtain. One that leaves more people demanding clarity than comfort. Yet Sophie's focus was never on questioning Caitlin Clark's toughness or work ethic. She was pointing to something much bigger: the system itself. Because the WNBA is not a place where raw talent alone can carry you. It has evolved into a battlefield of speed, strength, politics, and mental endurance. And even the brightest stars must pause before fully stepping into that storm. Caitlin Clark, after all, wasn't just any college player. At Iowa, she transformed women's basketball. She sold out arenas, delivered record TV ratings, and carried her team with a fire that felt unstoppable. That kind of stardom doesn't vanish overnight, but it does collide with the harsh realities of a league still struggling to balance growth, fairness, and control. Sophie Cunningham has never been afraid to stir the pot, and once again, her words have lit a fire under the WNBA. Yet this time, the conversation cuts far deeper than fines or headlines. It goes straight to the heart of Caitlin Clark's mysterious absence, and what it really says about the state of the league itself. Because here's the truth: the leap from college dominance to professional survival isn't as seamless as many imagined. Sophie has hinted at that reality before, but now her message is sharper than ever. What Caitlin achieved in college, as extraordinary and groundbreaking as it was, doesn't automatically translate in a league where the game becomes sharper, faster, and punishing on every single possession. And that's the real twist buried inside Sophie's words. Caitlin's absence, she suggested, isn't simply about a sore ankle or a healing muscle. It's about understanding the brutal standard the WNBA now demands. This is not a league where being good enough can keep you afloat. The bar has been raised to perfection, physically, mentally, and politically, or risk being consumed by the grind. Sophie even hinted at something most insiders whisper but few dare to say out loud: Caitlin could probably play right now in another setting. Overseas, in college again, even in some exhibition format, her recovery might have been deemed complete. But the WNBA is a different world entirely. Its expectations are not just higher, they are unforgiving. The truth is, the league has entered its most competitive era yet. By 2024, the depth of talent had reached unprecedented levels. The physicality had grown so intense that women's basketball itself was being described in new terms. Players compared it less to basketball and more to rugby with a hoop. The hits are heavier, the collisions constant. And for the women on the court, survival requires far more than skill. It demands armor. It demands resilience. It demands a mindset prepared for battle every single night. But here's the lingering question Sophie raised without needing to spell it out. Is this level of intensity even sustainable? If a generational player like Caitlin Clark, the most hyped college star of her generation, must hesitate before diving back into the fire, what does that say about the system itself? Fans celebrate the league's rise, the packed arenas, the record TV ratings, the viral highlights. But behind the curtain, there is growing unease about how much the human body and mind can actually endure. And so, when Sophie spoke, she wasn't merely talking about Caitlin Clark. She was exposing the reality of a league that has become the toughest proving ground in all of basketball. Her words forced the spotlight onto an uncomfortable truth. Caitlin's absence isn't just about her injury. It's about the impossible standard demanded of her, and everyone else. As the cameras follow Caitlin's every move, one question hovers in the air. How will she adapt to survive in a game that no longer forgives anything less than perfection? At Iowa, Caitlin seemed unstoppable. Her vision, her deep shooting range, her ability to take over a game on command turned packed arenas into shrines for a young superstar. She carried the Hawkeyes on her back and transformed women's basketball into must-see television. Yet in the WNBA, the story has become far more complicated. Here, the defenders aren't just good, they are the best in the world. The referees allow physicality at a level that looks closer to rugby than basketball. And in that environment, coming back from an injury isn't just difficult, it can alter the trajectory of an entire career. That's what Sophie Cunningham was really getting at when she suggested Caitlin's absence wasn't about a weak body or fragile mindset. It was about the league itself. In college or overseas, Caitlin might already be back on the floor. But in today's WNBA, the expectation is clear, perfection or nothing. Which leaves everyone asking, has the league become so unforgiving that even its brightest stars must break before they can shine? But Sophie's words didn't stop with physical strain. Her podcast peeled back another controversy, officiating. She didn't hold back when revisiting what happened in a matchup involving Paige Buchers. While praising Paige's talent, Sophie criticized the calls, or more accurately, the lack of consistency in them. She pointed out how Paige seemed wrapped in bubble wrap, every touch greeted by a whistle, while other stars, including Caitlin, were forced to absorb punishing hits that went unpenalized. This inconsistency hinted at something bigger, a two-tier system. Some players appear protected. Others, like Caitlin, are left to fight through relentless contact. And when Sophie dared to say it out loud, the league's response was swift and costly. Another hefty fine. To fans, it didn't feel like punishment for being wrong. It felt like punishment for speaking too loudly. A warning shot that honesty in the WNBA comes at a steep price. And so the questions multiply. What does this mean for Caitlin Clark? What does it mean for the league itself? If the WNBA demands perfection while enforcing its rules unevenly, is it truly building its stars, or setting them up to burn out? How long can players, fans, and the league's leadership ignore the cracks that are already beginning to show? One thing is certain, this unfolding drama isn't just about one player's recovery. It's about whether the WNBA standards are sustainable at all. But the Caitlin Clark dilemma runs deeper still. Because while Sophie pays fines for pointing out favoritism, the favoritism itself remains untouched, quietly woven into the fabric of the league. She's been here before, penalized for voicing frustrations, warned repeatedly to stay silent. And yet she doesn't stop. With each refusal, she shines a brighter spotlight on a reality that makes both fans and players uncomfortable. Because here's the uncomfortable truth Sophie keeps circling back to: perfection in this league isn't a universal standard. It's conditional. Some stars, the chosen faces of the WNBA, seem to benefit from whistles that arrive at the slightest touch. Others, Caitlin among them, are forced to battle through collisions while officials swallow the whistle. And when fans begin to suspect that fairness depends more on name recognition than actual play, the credibility of the game itself begins to wobble. Sophie, willing to risk thousands of dollars to say it out loud, has cracked open a conversation the league seems desperate to avoid. Yet this is not where the story ends. It may be where it truly begins. Because the favoritism Sophie points to on the court echoes into something much bigger off of it: the silence surrounding Caitlin Clark's injury. For all the headlines, the debates, and the speculation, no one actually knows what's happening. Not the fans, not the media, and according to Sophie herself, not even Caitlin's teammates. On her podcast, Sophie admitted something startling. "I just literally don't know." Think about that. In the NBA, when LeBron James gets hurt, updates arrive almost immediately. Press conferences are held. Recovery timelines are explained. In the NFL, if Patrick Mahomes tweaks an ankle, every detail is dissected within hours. Those leagues understand that when their brightest stars are sidelined, transparency is non-negotiable. Yet in the WNBA, Caitlin's situation has been wrapped in fog. No clear updates. No concrete timelines. Just vague statements repeated like a script. Day to day. Or, no updates at this time. For fans, it sounds less like information and more like deflection. And in that silence, rumors bloom. Some whisper that Caitlin's lack of protection from officials is fueling her string of injuries, turning temporary setbacks into the pattern of a fragile career. Others question whether the league is hiding something more serious, unwilling to admit just how big the issue really is. Scroll through social media and the same questions echo. Why no timeline?